Good evening. Welcome to the Kelly Wright Show from the nation's capital here in Washington, D.C., and we're all being impacted by COVID-19, which leads me to my opening remarks. Many of you are scratching your heads wondering, when will this be over? And the truth of the matter is, nobody really knows. We've never seen this kind of pandemic before. We've never experienced it in our lifetime, and as a result of this, we are all trying to embrace the new normal, which is quite abnormal. Check it out, for example, across the world, more than 17,200 deaths have occurred. There are more than 396,000 global cases confirmed of COVID-19, and we're being told to socially distance ourselves in order to safeguard and protect not only our families and each other, but our communities as well. But in this age of socially distancing ourselves, let us not isolate ourselves from reaching out and touching each other through social media. Pick up the phone, call someone, greet them on a Facebook Messenger or whatever social app you use, but reach out and embrace each other. As we go through this, we will get through this if we stand together. This is not a time for finger pointing. This is not a time for blame. This is a time for actually lifting each other up. If I can be personal, I remember my mother once telling me a song that she used to relate to me. She said, if we can help each other as we travel on, if we can help each other through our rights and wrongs, then our living will not be in vain. We can't achieve a breakthrough if we're bringing each other down and pulling each other down because of politics and division along race and ethnicity and religion. And at a time where we're all embroiled in this crisis, it's a time of coming together and actually putting some faith in each other, and certainly putting faith in God. I'm a believer that prayer changes things, and that's my opening observation. Well, as I've stated, we are dealing with this COVID-19 crisis, and coming up in my next segment, I'll be talking to Congressman Bobby Scott. Congressman Scott is the chair of the House Education and Labor Committee, which is, of course, engaged in the amount of money that will be distributed throughout this country as Democrats and the Treasury Department and Republicans all come together to try to meet the needs and the financial burdens that we're all encountering because of coronavirus. That's next on The Kelly Wright Show. Welcome back to the Kelly Wright Show. Earlier, I spoke with Congressman Bobby Scott from my home via Zoom. Here now is that interview with the congressman, who is the chair of the House Education and Labor Committee. Well, Congressman Scott joins me right now on the Kelly Wright Show, and he is the chair of the Committee on Education and Labor. And Congressman Scott, we are living in unprecedented times. We've never been anywhere near this kind of new normal, which is quite abnormal. Let's start off by, first of all, talking about what you're going through as a member of Congress and the chairman of one of the most important committees that's dealing with this COVID-19 global pandemic.
Well, our committee really has jurisdiction over the most important aspects of the problem. We're talking about the workforce, we have jurisdiction over healthcare, we have jurisdiction over education, and our main goal right now is to make sure that people maintain their paychecks. If they lose their job, and a lot of people are losing jobs, the applications for unemployment compensation are going through the roof. We're finding that if we can maintain paid sick leave, paid family leave, and significantly increase unemployment compensation, then we can provide a continuation of paychecks. The $1,000 checks that people are talking about, that'll be very helpful. But if we can it will pale in consideration to what we can do maintaining income through paid family leave, paid sick leave, and unemployment compensation. So maintaining the paychecks is the first priority. The second priority that we have is to make sure that people have access to health care during this crisis, primarily involved in getting tests without having to pay copays and deductibles of whatever these tests can cost. The problem, of course, is there are not enough tests, but whatever they're generally available. We want as many people to get tested as possible so we'll know the extent of the problem. And the third priority in our committee is education, and that goes through K through 12 and into higher education. In K through 12, one of the immediate priorities is to make sure that the school children can be fed. Many rely on school lunches as their primary source of nutrition. And so we've developed a plan and waiver authority to the Department of Education to make sure that students can be fed. This is not a major challenge to school systems because they do it every summer. The schools are out, they still deliver the meal, so they know how to do it. And we've given them the authority and additional funding to get that done. Higher education and the bill coming up, there are a lot of problems that will be challenges faced by higher education. What happens to you when they send you home in the middle of the semester? What happens to your financial aid? You have to pay back your student loan. What happens to the college when they don't have room and board money coming in? How do they pay the debt service on the dormitories? What happens to Pell Grant eligibility? We're addressing all of those problems in this upcoming bill, as well as making sure that unemployment compensation is significantly enhanced and more readily available, and other financial assistance to individuals and small businesses. Our priority is the effect of this crisis on the individual. There is significant interest on the other side in making sure that corporations and high-paid executives can get bonuses during this period of time. That is not our priority. Our priority is the individual, the families, the education, colleges, healthcare, things that affect the working men and women across this country. As we talk about working men and women, they're the ones that can easily get unemployment compensation. We're also looking for ways to get that compensation to gig workers and others who are considered independent contractors and not employees. That's one of the challenges when we've been going back and forth on who's an employee, who's an independent contractor. Now we will see the difference it makes, because an independent contractor is not entitled to unemployment compensation, minimum wage, overtime, or anything else. So we're trying to get the provisions in the bill. It's been negotiated by the Senate and by the House to make sure that people who do not have employment-based income history to also be eligible for unemployment compensation.
Congressman, what you've unpacked there is a Herculean task. I was talking to your assistant, who's also appearing here with us, your aide, Stephanie Lally, and all the work that they're doing is 24/7. I don't think the American people really understand how much of a task this is for all the members of Congress. And as you continue to lead this new normal and trying to help us mitigate the circumstances, as well as doing all the things that are responsible and making sure that we can move forward to take care of our families, go to school, take care of the homeless, take care of the millions of children who will be left without food because the school is closing. What would be your message to all Americans in terms of staying calm and not fearful, staying informed, and not beleaguered by the hype?
Well, one of the first things we need to do is follow the direction of the Center for Disease Control to make sure that we're limiting the spread of the virus as much as we possibly can. We saw pictures of people partying in Florida and other places. We need to make sure that we follow the instructions of the Center for Disease Control to mitigate as much as possible the spread of the virus. Meanwhile, Congress is hard at work. The bill of this magnitude usually takes about 6 or 7 months. We're trying to draft it in 6 or 7 days. Obviously, it means a lot of late night work, a lot of negotiation. You have the Senate and its ups and downs. Senator Schumer, we're talking in the middle of the day. Right now, this has been taped in the middle of the day, so things may have changed. But there's optimism that we will be able to get a compromise bill passed the Senate and passed by the House and signed by the President to address the compelling needs of people around the country. the Congress is hard at work, and we're going to come up. I'm confident that we'll come up with a package that will address the needs. Won't be able to solve all the problems, but we'll solve a lot of them.
Congressman, stay with me. We're going to take a slight break and come back with you in just a moment, and we will have more from Congressman Bobby Scott as the Kelly Wright Show continues after this. Welcome back to the Kelly Wright Show. We're talking to Congressman Bobby Scott. He is the chair of the Education and Labor Committee at the House on Capitol Hill. Congressman, I was listening to Governor Larry Hogan, who of course is the governor of Maryland. He's also the chair of the Governors Association. And one of the concerns that he has is that he wants to see more federal response. He's pleased with what's happened so far, but he's asking for a lot more, as all the governors are throughout all 50 states. What's your best advice to them as we continue to see federal and state work together?
One of the things we need to do, one of the things the governors need to do is do as much as they can on their own. As he has indicated, there's not the federal leadership that's needed. Several of the governors have pointed out that when we talk about the personal protection equipment needed by the hospital workers, they're bidding against themselves, running up the price. If the federal government could procure as much as they can and then have it distributed based on need, it would be a much better process. That's not happening, so the governors just have to do the best they can.
Congressman, I've known you for many years. I've known you for so many years. I've known how personally involved you are and actively engaged you are in your home state of Virginia, the wonderful Commonwealth that it is. To all Americans, we look to all the members of Congress, including the president, to come together in a bipartisan fashion to help us with this. How do you personally view this? What are you doing to safeguard yourself and protect you and your staff?
My staff is working from home. Everybody is teleconferencing. I learned how to use Zoom for the first time. We've been doing a lot of conference calls. I'm on a conference call about 3 or 4 times a day, talking to the staff, talking to the Speaker's office, talking to the Governor's office, talking to colleagues, a lot of different phone calls. And so we're doing the best we can. And as we are seeing here, the technology is new to a lot of us, but it's something we have to get used to. There are several members of Congress, House and Senate, who have been found to have been infected, many on quarantine. Mm-hmm. I've been essentially at home. I've been out to go to the drugstore, go to the grocery store. And that's about it for the last week or so. It's been interesting because on an average Saturday, I'll have about 6 or 7 events to go to. I looked at my calendar on Saturday. All of the events were there, but they were marked canceled, each and every one. Wow. So instead of running all around the district, I've been sitting at home doing emails, doing research, and working with staff to make sure that we're making the appropriate recommendations to the leadership as they negotiate a bill. As I indicated, a lot of the elements of the legislation come at least partially through our committee. We have education, we have healthcare, workforce issues, job training is going to be an issue coming up. There are a lot of issues involving education and labor, as well as healthcare. The Older Americans Act, we've made improvements to address the crisis. There's a lot of work that our committee is doing, and we're just having to do it with all of the staff working from home, doing the best they can. And they've got up late at night. Sometimes, I know a few days ago, the speaker gave a directive that she wanted draft language in 7 hours. She said that at 11 o'clock at night.
Wow.
She wanted that draft done by 6 o'clock in the morning. And so you don't argue with it, you just get the job done. And so staff has been working overtime, getting ideas reduced to legislative language that can be put into a bill. And that, like I said, is usually a 6 or 7 month progress. We're trying to get it done in 6 or 7 days.
That's incredible. Congressman, what can we as members of the media do to help join in this fight other than providing information? It's also important how we dispense and disperse and distribute that information, is it not?
Well, it's important that you continue giving facts. There are a lot of
Right.
rumors and innuendo. I think Department of Justice found one group selling vaccines over the internet. There is no vaccine right now, so obviously it was a transparent fraud, but how would you know? It's important that the media continue to give appropriate information, factual information, focusing on not what the politicians say about healthcare, but what the public health experts say about healthcare. What we think might happen medically is not important. We need to hear from Dr. Fauci and others as to what the facts are. And the media has been extremely good in separating political innuendo and ideas and hopes and aspirations from the facts that Dr. Fauci and others are telling the people what they need to do.
Again, thank you, sir, for joining us on the Kelly Wright Show. I know your task is not easy. I'm always at your disposal whenever you want to come on and give some information, and we'll put the facts out there and also put the heart and soul of what you're doing there as chairman of the House Education and Labor Committee. Certainly, as I mentioned before, you are engaged in a Herculean task, and we thank you for every effort you, Stephanie, and your entire staff and the members of Congress who are trying to find a way to help us fight this disease that is sweeping across our land.
Well, thank you very much, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir. God bless. Keep working, and we'll stay informed. Welcome back to the Kelly Wright Show. So joining me now is Dr. Carolyn Scott Ransom and also Wilma Batiste. They are living in San Francisco in the Bay Area. And as you know, California is on lockdown, shut down, everything. People have been asked or actually ordered to stay home and not get out anywhere. So that's problematic in and of itself. But these two ladies are also involved in taking the all-important census. Ladies, thank you for joining us on the Kelly Wright Show. And first of all, Dr. Carolyn, how difficult has it been for you personally, especially since you're a commissioner there in San Francisco?
The hard part, Kelly, and it has been extremely difficult, things that we had set up, meetings, the gatherings and talking to people in person and going to our congregations, all of that is erased. It's shut down. And so we've been advised no services. Things are streamed online or by phone with some of the pastors, or just absolutely nothing for the smaller congregations. So that cuts off a huge population. The communities that we would and have been connected to for the census had meetings. They were going to use their sites, computer rooms or computer spaces. So we're cut off from that for the community to be able to go in right around the corner and use. We're cut off from the schools and the teachers that were joining us in this effort. And Rise University Prep is one of the private schools that Wilma and I have teamed up with and have been working with. And we were using that as a mobile unit, all of the parents there and then their network. So things were to happen, set up, doing great, but that now has changed. So by the day, actually now, we are trying to think of different creative ways in reaching out. And just this morning, I was making sure the hotel was open down in the Tenderloin, where one of our targeted places are.
Tenderloin is a district where people live in San Francisco. It's a neighborhood area.
Actually, yes, it is. And it's also an extremely low income, no income community. And it's also a place that harbors a lot of the homeless and transients, as well as immigrants. So it's a huge community of people that we had access to. And a lot of the nation knows about Glide Memorial Church. They're down in that community. So it was a wonderful place to grab so many people, get them involved and connected. And we had a lot of yeses to that. Well, now we have to figure out, I'm in my 70s, so how do we get to them? I'm on lockdown. Wilma's on lockdown.
Well, let me bring Wilma in right now, as a matter of fact. Wilma Batiste, what's your role in collecting the census there in California, and how difficult? We've heard from Dr. Carolyn Scott Ransom explaining some of the difficulties that the shutdown has caused due to the COVID-19 pandemic. What's your take on this, and are there exercises that can be done? Are there new devices that can be implemented in order to help get the census taken?
Good morning, Kelly, and thank you for this opportunity. Yes, my position in getting the census done was reaching out to the many organizations and communities that I'm involved with as chair of an Abundant Life Faith Committee for UCSF, and working with the San Francisco Interfaith Council. But due to the lockdown or shelter in, I can't go and meet people at all of the different meetings or the different occasions. So the very engine that you have provided for us today is giving me an opportunity to reach out to all of the people I could not physically go to at this point in time. We have partnered with one of our very well-known Warriors teams, but with the NBA closing down the games, we don't have access to the Jumbotron for inside the games or the flashing for outside. And they're in the process of working on doing an ad where we can put it on like Facebook, Zoom, Instagram. These are the agents that we're using now to take place of us going in face to face to meet with people, to get the information out there.
So what I hear both of you talking about is the problem of getting it out to people. Now, we just heard just a few moments ago, Wilma, Dr. Carolyn Scott Ransom talking about the plight of the homeless and the poor, low-income areas like the Tenderloin District. Let's talk about that when we come back after the break. Joining me right now is Dr. Carolyn Scott Ransom and Wilma Batiste. They're from San Francisco. They are census takers and a whole lot more to the community. We'll talk about that after the break. Welcome back to the Kelly Wright Show, where I'm talking to Dr. Carolyn Scott Ransom, who is a commissioner in San Francisco, as well as Wilma Batiste. Together, they are collectively trying to continue on with the census. But as you all know, California, the largest populous, most populous state in America, is on lockdown, shut down. They are not able to do their jobs. Just a few moments ago, before we went to the break, we were talking about how the NBA Warriors team was going to assist them. But as you know, the NBA has been shut down. Therefore, they don't have the Jumbotron to actually put out the information saying, get your census done. It's so important. Dr. Carolyn Scott Ransom, you had been talking about the poor living in the Tenderloin District of San Francisco. Tell me, in this new normal, which is quite abnormal, what I've been saying throughout this program, how do you reach the poor, and why is it so important to reach them to get the census taken when right now everybody's saying it's so important right now just to safeguard and protect ourselves? And I ask that question because I know the census is all important, but I also realize that technically they're very disadvantaged. You can't get to the poor because they don't have access to social media. They do have access to smartphones. How do you help them?
And keyword right now, the strong keyword is smartphones, smartphones. And so, yes, the most important thing is the fact that we need the funds now, but if and when, and I believe we will get through this, we'll need those funds more than ever imagined. And we'll need them for health services, the school system, community services for our seniors, as well as the children's programs and community outreach and nonprofits and everything. And so how do we reach them? We're looking at Facebook, we're looking at using and getting the word out through the Tenants Association with the housing, subsidized housing, and the leaders there within our community. We're looking at, and we've been talking to them, so they're all aboard and just waiting. So we're making posters, and we're going to get them on Facebook, Instagram, and there's probably some other sites I don't even know about. TikTok is what I heard yesterday. So we're looking to use every mode, and with whatever this younger millennium generation, the youth are using, get it to those leaders in the street. And I talk to everyone. I don't care where they are, and they're willing to help us.
Okay. Thank you for that. And Wilma, I guess one of the questions that viewers might want to know is, why is the census so important in the wake of what's happening right now, when it just seems like life itself is far more important than getting a census count of people? Tell me why it's still a priority.
It's a priority due to the fact if we don't get everyone counted, we're going to lose representation in Congress. And as we lose representation, we don't have a chance to get the funds necessary to supply the needs that we desperate for: housing, for jobs, for schools, for streets, all of the stuff we need, and we need it now. Just answering the 9 questions this year that's on the census, and taking maybe 10 minutes to do this, will give us the next 10 years of having what we need. And with everybody locked in, locked down, another way, by us having the social media agents, we can work with them while they're locked in. If they have access to their phones or their iPads, we can make it a game. Let's do this together and walk them through on how to do their census being done digital this time. And this will give us a better opportunity. If this event, it's going to go away. So when it's over, we'll be better prepared for whatever comes after this one.
Well, Wilma Baptiste and Dr. Carolyn Scott Ransom, I want to thank you both for joining me on the Kelly Wright Show. Certainly, you have a lot more ahead of you in the days and weeks ahead, as we all do throughout the country, throughout the world for that matter. But as you've mentioned, it is important to still try to connect with people and get that census taken. Dr. Carolyn Scott Ransom, Wilma Baptiste, stay in touch with us. I know you have other team members that will be coming on the Kelly Wright Show to, again, lock in and talk about why this is so critical and why it's important, even in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic. Thank you both for being on the show today.
You're welcome.
Stay safe, stay well.
And thank you for your time and your assistance.
All right. Thank you, ladies. Welcome back to the Kelly Wright Show. Joining me now via Zoom is Dr. Yolanda Hancock. She's a pediatrician and is all too familiar with what's going on in terms of COVID-19 and the pandemic. Doc, thanks for joining us today.
It's my pleasure.
So this new normal, which I've stated throughout the show, is quite abnormal. What are you concerned about? I understand you're doing telemedicine.
I am. There are several things that I'm concerned about. The first is the lack of testing. We know that by looking at countries like South Korea, the two main interventions are testing and social distancing. And when we don't have either of those, luckily Americans are doing better, some places better than others, but when we do not have consistent testing and social distancing, we set ourselves up for failure.
And in doing that, what are your concerns of how we overcome this? Are people really getting the message out there, Doc?
I think the message is conflicting, particularly when our political leaders are speaking to the opposite of what our public health professionals are telling us to do. There was a Republican politician out of Texas who said yesterday in an interview that seniors should take one for the team pretty much in terms of prioritizing the economy over health. And it for me as a pediatrician and as a public health professional, as a mother, as someone who fits in a high risk category because I have asthma, we have no room to play. I'm not willing to sacrifice my mother for
Right.
the economy. I'm just not.
Well said. And of course, a lot of people agree with your sentiment exactly. This is a time that we should be coming together to help each other, not hinder each other, or to cast aspersions to anybody because of race, creed, nationality, or what have you. This is quite a devastating illness if someone contracts it, but there are survivor cases.
Right.
Tell me about that.
I think it's important to understand that based on some increase in testing, the death rate, which was previously estimated to be 3.4%, meaning of all people who have COVID-19 infection, initially 3.4% were dying from it. Because of increased testing, that death rate has now decreased to 1.2%. Still higher than the flu. The flu's death rate is 0.2%. So when people compare, oh, it's just like the flu. No, it isn't. It still kills more people than the flu. But one of the great things about states taking the initiative on their own to create their own testing measures, we're seeing the number of cases increase because we're testing more. We're also seeing an increase in spread, but even more importantly, we are seeing the death rate come down. So if 1.2% of people with COVID-19 infection die, that means over 90% of people survive it. The challenge is that those high-risk populations, they don't survive it in the same way that otherwise healthy people do. When we look at seniors, particularly those 75 and older who acquire COVID-19 infection, close to 20% of our seniors succumb to the infection. And it's just not a risk that I'm willing to take for our seniors, for our individuals who are immunocompromised, and for those of us like myself who have asthma, heart disease, diabetes. When we know that a third of the country has heart disease, and heart disease is one of the most important risk factors in terms of complications and death from COVID-19, we have no room to play. We have to make the healthy choice the right choice, and that means social distancing. Some of these orders that we're seeing across the country, state to state, stay at home, shelter in place, those are for our protection. The economy will recover. You can't recover from death.
Right, right. Dr. Hancock, before I let you go, you mentioned social distancing. I've mentioned that at the top of my program. And I said, while we're in this age of social distancing ourselves, we should not isolate ourselves from each other. We can reach out to each other through social media, picking up a phone, writing a letter. How important is that?
It's critically important. Our mental health is so important in these challenging times. And the way that we maintain excellent relational, emotional, physical, spiritual health is by staying connected to our loved ones, our spiritual connections, our pastors. There are so many people who are doing amazing things, giving us access through technology to exercise, to spiritual classes, to healthy recipes. Just pick up a phone. There's someone in your life right now who's sitting at home lonely and desperately wanting someone to connect out to them. They're not going to reach out to you. It's our responsibility, particularly those who have usually isolated themselves. Today is the day to make that phone call, to check in, be your brother and your sister's keeper.
And not our brothers and sisters' killer.
You said it.
All right, Dr. Yolanda Hancock, always good of you to be on the Kelly Wright Show. Thank you so much, and keep the faith out there.
You too, my love. Bye-bye.
Bye. Dr. Yolanda Hancock, we'll be back with more of the Kelly Wright Show right after this.
We are proud and pleased to introduce to you, known to the world, Joel Osteen.
Hey, Kelly.
Good to see you.
God bless you. Good to see you.
The one thing that the world needs is hope.
Yes.
How do we implement more hope? I know you do it all the time.
Yeah.
But how do we do more? How can we, the people, follow your lead?
Well, I think several ways, Kelly. I think one way is to encourage somebody today. Take a moment to lift somebody's spirits, because everybody's dealing with something. No matter how good they look on the outside, everybody has challenges. And I think sometimes just the simple things of praying for somebody, encouraging them, telling them that they did good on the project if they did. Just simple things like that, I believe, can lift people's spirits. Sometimes we think we have to do something big, send them on vacation, but I've found it's the little acts of kindness that can help lift people's hearts.
And that's so important, because a lot of times there's so much anxiety in our society and we're overwhelmed. To those people who are experiencing anxiety right now, what would be your message to them?
I think it's important to come back to that place of peace, to know that God has you in the palm of his hand, that nothing we face is a surprise to him. But if we allow it, our mind will just play all the negative all day long. Just what am I going to do, and what if it doesn't work out? So you have to take control of your thought life, and you have to think about what you're thinking about. And when you're tempted to worry, use that same energy to say, God, I know you're in control. I thank you for fighting my battles. Just choosing to live out of a place of peace, because it doesn't automatically happen.
Joel, final question, and I want you to just take the floor. What's on your heart in terms of what you impart to America, to people? Because people are hurting, and I've met some people recently who have said, I've been touched by this man's ministry because he cast a wide net of hope.
Yes.
But you always instruct people to go back to a local church, find a good Bible-believing church. I grew up with a single-parent mom who said the joy of the Lord is your strength.
Yeah.
So from a Joel Osteen perspective, what would you say to our audience?
Yeah, my encouragement is nothing you're facing is a surprise to God. That again, he has you in the palm of his hand. When you choose to believe that he's in control, no matter how dark it may be or no matter what's come against you, he knows how to turn it around. You just take it one day at a time. You may not see how you can do it for 6 months, but you can make it for another 24 hours, then God will give you the grace for that day. But you have to stir your spirit up and say, I wouldn't be alive unless there was something amazing in front of me. So God is directing your steps. So I just encourage you to look up, be grateful, recognize this day as a gift. And another great thing is go be a blessing to somebody else, because what you give away, that joy you give away, that love you give away, it's going to come back to you. That's a seed that God will sow into your life. But he's going to continue to take you higher and higher as you continue to just be your best and honor him.
You've never been asked this before, not by a news anchor. How can I pray for you?
Well, Kelly, just pray that God will give me wisdom to make the right decisions, to continue to lead our ministry in the way that we should. So I appreciate that very much.
I love you, man.
I love you too.
Something good's going to happen to you.
Congratulations on your new network.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. Welcome back, and now for my closing remarks. As I stated at the top of the show, we are dealing with a new normal that is quite abnormal, and it has set many of us into a place of high anxiety and stress. But again, as I mentioned, as we socially distance ourselves, don't isolate yourself from your family, from your friends, from your loved ones. In other words, as I've stated again, and I'll state it over and over again, pick up the phone and call somebody. If you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling weakened by this whole system that's going on, that's causing you to shutter yourself in, don't fall prey to a bunker mentality. Just reach out and touch people through social media and the phone. Write a letter, something that we don't do anymore. We usually send people texts or emails, but write a letter, read a book, take a walk. But whatever you do, never give up on hope, never give up on faith, and never give up on love. We leave you now with a song called Savior, and in times like these, we probably need one. I'm Kelly Wright. Keep spreading love, freedom, and peace, not fear. Peace out. through the heart of the city, inflicting pain and casualty. A cowardly act of despicable terror, increasing fear and misery.
Oh, it's so crazy.
The way we're living our lives.
Oh, it's so crazy.
This kind of living ain't right. In times like these, do you ever wonder?
Could it be
We need a savior. In times like these, do you ever wonder? We need a savior. Your broken heart, so bruised and battered, tearing apart at the seams. Your wounded life, so torn and tattered, filled with regrets and broken dreams.
it's so crazy?
So crazy, the way we're living this life.
It's so crazy.
It's so crazy. This kind of living ain't right. Yeah. In times like these, do you ever wonder? Could it be we need a savior? In times like these, do you ever wonder? Lord, we need salvation. Please come and heal the nations. Lord, we need deliverance. Oh, please come and give us forgiveness. Well,
What the world needs now is love.
you know we need it, Lord.
'Cause it's just too little.
'Cause there's just too little world.
What the world needs now is love.
You know we need it
'Cause it's
now.
just too little.
There's too little world in times like these. Oh, do you ever wonder? Could it be we need a savior? Oh, in times like these, my God, could it be we need a savior? Could it be? Oh my God, could it be? Lord, we need a savior.